Ladies and gentlemen, as I think I just told you, I have the real joy of having back as my guest our friend, an American hero, Brandon Strock. Brandon, just great to see your face. So encouraging to see you.
Always good to see you. Thanks for having me.
There's a lot going on. Why don't you just tell my audience? I mean, people know you from the whole walk away campaign, and you've been through hell at the hands of the deep state. We're not exaggerating. So, what are you up to right now? What's going on?
Well, I just recently moved back to New York City. I'm a more than 20-year New Yorker who took off mid 2020 during the COVID shutdown. I grew up in Nebraska, so I went back to Nebraska for what was supposed to be a very short, like 6-month stay, just to sort of ride out the what I thought was going to be the remainder of the COVID epidemic. Epidemic. I I thought that Donald Trump would get reelected in 2020. I thought that as soon as he got reelected, they would drop the COVID narrative and then I would return to New York City. What happened instead was that the 2020 election turned out the way that it did. And but a couple of months after that 2020 election, I was raided by the FBI, put in jail, and put under federal supervision in the state of Nebraska because that's where I was arrested. So I was under federal supervision in the state of Nebraska for over 4 years until I was pardoned by President Trump at the beginning of this year. That's all a very long preamble to tell you that with my newfound freedom, I have decided now I really truly feel called upon to return to New York City, not just because it's a city that I love, but because it's a city that I think is in real danger right now, with the threat of a Democrat socialist potentially becoming the mayor of the city and what that might usher in terms of what could happen to New York, but I think the country as a whole. And so, I never stopped fighting with my movement, my mission, walk away. I'm pleased to say that we're as strong as we've ever been. We're fighting as hard as we ever have, and we're doing great. But I want to put a lot of focus on saving the city that I love. So I'm back in New York to fight.
Well, I mean, that's the headline that you're back in New York. And it's an interesting thing. I was born in this city, and I have now lived most of my life in this city by far. And when I travel around the country, being a red state kind of guy, people say, "Where do you live?" And I say, "New York City." So many people go, "Ew," which really
Yeah.
annoys me when people do that to me because it's stupid and ignorant because, we are fighting by God's grace to take our country back and to take these uh, death zones back from liberal Democrat lunatics. And so we ought to be fighting, or the way I put it, is that God has called me to do this, right? You don't do it just to do it, and it's not like everybody needs to do it, but some people are uniquely prepared to be in places like New York City, as you are, and as I am to this point. And so I guess I want to ask you, because I can give my own answers on this, but what do you suppose is possible? In other words, why do you feel that New York is worth fighting for?
Yeah, great question. So, and let's go back to the statement you made a second ago about, people kind of responding with that, like, "Ooh," I get that all the time too. Or people also saying to me like, "Oh, why would you ever want to go back there? Oh, it's a liberal hellhole." I think not everybody is cut out to live in New York City, and I totally get that. But I think if you are the type of person who responds to the energy of the city, there's no place like it, and there's nothing like it. And I mean, I can honestly say that when I'm here, it's not, yeah, I'm here to fight, but I'm also here to, love my life and love living in the city. And I truly do. And when I'm here, I find that I have experiences that don't happen to me when I'm anywhere else, whether it's doors opening, opportunities become available. You meet incredibly fascinating people. I mean, it's really, truly an amazing place, and there's nothing like it. And I think that the threat that New York City faces right now is that if we usher in or open the door to this incredibly like uber progressive, uber leftist socialist takeover I think that we're going to find that the city that we love, even though it's a jungle, it's an animal, but I think it's going to lose a tremendous amount of its vitality. And I mean, I think much worse could happen because I think we already have a problem in New York City with there really being kind of like a two-class system. I mean, it's becoming really a city for people who are either struggling significantly just to get by or the ultra wealthy. And there really isn't much of a middle class in New York. And I would argue there probably hasn't been for quite a while. But I think that the problems that the city faces are going to get exponentially worse if we allow somebody to come in, take over, and make the government the all powerful overseer of everything that happens and controlling of every aspect of people's lives. And that's really what Mamdani's policy prescription is. I mean, he wants the government to be in charge of housing, transportation, electricity. I mean, every aspect of people's lives. And we know that socialism never works. There are no examples in the world of socialism being a raving success. It always fails, and it will fail in New York City.
Well, it's so funny because I'm, older than you, and when I was a little kid, I remember the New York of the 70s. I remember my dad, who, grew up in Greece, came to America. We lived in New York. I remember him saying that if Mayor Lindsay, the mayor of that time, because there were a series of super pathetic liberal New York mayors who ran New York into the ground in the 60s and 70s before Giuliani. And Mayor Lindsay, he was this, golden boy, good looking, waspy, kind of liberal mayor of New York. And I remember my dad saying, if he is elected president, because he was running for president in 1972, if he's elected president, we're moving back to Greece. Like my father was saying, like, we will not live in America where the president is this guy, because he knew, my parents saw communism close up. They lived through the hell of it. And so anybody who knows what it is knows it is a death sentence. And I would say, like you, I love New York. A lot of people really don't understand New York. People who don't live here, they really have, I mean, it's ignorance. I'm just going to call you out, friends. You're really ignorant and foolish because you don't know New York. We're not talking about Portland. We're not talking about downtown Seattle. We're not talking about downtown San Francisco. We're talking about a city that at its worst has avoided going down those holes, where it's a needle park, where there's tents and people soiling themselves and passed out on whatever drugs they're taking. New York is not that. So at its worst, New York is not that. And you hear all these, dramatic examples of bad things in New York. This is a huge city, but it really has avoided the horrors of some of these deep blue state cities. And what you're saying, Brandon, and I agree, is that Mamdani would take us there. As bad as things have been under de Blasio, who is just about as bad as it gets, Eric Adams, not much better. As bad as it's been, it would go that much farther. And we have a sense that we want to save the city. And so I guess, I want to talk to you about a lot of stuff, Brandon, but what if I could wave a magic wand, I would want Curtis Sliwa to be the mayor. I've had him on this program many times over the years. He is somebody who understands the city backwards and forwards. It would be kind of like Trump, and he would just do stuff. It would be a breath of fresh air. But a lot of people don't believe that he could win. Or what is the first blush of your sense of whether he could win?
Well, look, here's what I'm going to say. My goal right now is to try to educate New Yorkers about the dangers of embracing socialism and to fight Mamdani. I've made an intentional decision to stay out of the other side of that until we sort out who's going to be advancing forward, because my belief is we're all going to have to coalesce behind one candidate. And in all likelihood, the majority of us are going to have to make decisions that we don't want to make.
No, I agree with you. I'm with you.
I can think of, here, I don't mind answering this. Of the options that we have available to us right now, I wish and I hope that Curtis would be the choice available, and that would be the direction that we go in terms of character, in terms of somebody who actually cares about the city, in terms of somebody who I think has a reputation and a background that I can support and I can get behind. But I also recognize that may not be the option that we have. And I believe that the only path we're going to have forward is for one opponent to emerge that everyone's going to have to coalesce behind. So I'm trying to refrain from being overly
Yeah, no, no, no.
opinionated
I think
about the
I'm with
options
you.
available.
Look, I'm with you. Yeah, we'll be right. We'll be right back, folks. Talking to Brandon Strock. Don't go away. Welcome back, folks. I'm talking to my fellow New Yorker, Brandon Strock. Brandon, you and I love New York City, and we were just talking about how a lot of people, when I'm in Texas or all these other places that I love, Florida, whatever. Often when I say I live in New York City, people are like, ew. And I get annoyed because it reveals a real ignorance on their part because they don't understand that this city has been, if anybody's a fan of old movies, when you look at the New York of the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, this was just a city like no other in the world. And it still has a lot of that. There's a lot of the bone structure is here. There are a lot of great figures that I've had the privilege of being friends with over the years who are lifelong New Yorkers. William F. Buckley, whom I had the privilege of meeting, and so many other figures. So there is something great about this city. Donald Trump called this city home for 1,000 years. So the idea that this is like a Portland or any of those other, that's just nonsense. This is a city that really can be something great. And this is a city that elected Rudolph Giuliani. That should tell us something. And I guess I wonder where he is in all of this right now. But you were just saying, and I agree with you, that the answer to who should be the next mayor is anybody but Mamdani. And yes, I would vote for Eric Adams. Yes, I would even vote for Cuomo if the choice is between Cuomo and Mamdani, as much as I don't like a Cuomo or Eric Adams. But so what are you doing right now? I know that you've launched an effort. What does that mean?
Sure. And quickly, before I get into that, I just wanted to, you've been talking about comparing to New York City to, say, Portland or San Francisco. And I want to say you're absolutely right about that because, I've spent many trips to San Francisco doing the work I've done and going to places like Portland. And, that's one of my concerns about Mondani. One of his policies is that he wants to decriminalize all drug use. So I mean, imagine walking down the streets of New York City where it's perfectly legal to just shoot up heroin or to deal drugs, to sell heroin or to sell crack or to fentanyl or anything else. Obviously there are times in areas of the city where you walk around and you'll see some junkies on the street, and it's amazing actually considering how large the city is and what we are that we don't have a bigger homeless problem. We obviously have homeless people in New York, but it's nothing compared to other cities like Los Angeles or San Francisco or other places. But the policies that this guy is supporting are going to take us there. I mean, we would become a San Francisco and like a total hellscape and possibly much worse than San Francisco or Portland. So it's a major concern. And one of the things that so let me tell you, this Sunday, we're kicking off the first of what will be many events and many rallies throughout the city, because what I'm trying to do is bring New Yorkers together from all across the political spectrum. And I'm calling upon moderate Democrats, independents, libertarians, Republicans, MAGA people to come together. You don't have to leave your party. You don't have to abandon your principles. But what we can do is agree that we should not and cannot open the door to democratic socialism in this city. And if and when we do, the normalization of something like that has the potential to not only take down New York, but spread like a cancer all across our country into other blue states and other blue cities. And it's already happening right now in Minnesota with a mayoral race in Minneapolis. Now, a Democrat socialist has secured the nomination from the Democrat Party in Minnesota for mayor of Minneapolis. And I don't want this normalized. So we'll be kicking off a rally this Sunday, 1 p.m. in Union Square. I'm bringing together New Yorkers all across the political spectrum to speak. After that's over, the rally will probably be an hour and a half to 2 hours long. We're going to do a tabling event right in Union Square, very similar to what we do when we go to colleges all over the country. But rather than just trying to focus on issues and discussion and debate with college kids, so we're going to have 4 or 5 people on our team behind a table right there in Union Square. We're going to have signs all over, all around us with different messages about the dangers of socialism and how that will impact the Black community, the Jewish community, Gen Z, and all different types of New Yorkers and everyone as a whole. We're going to have a microphone on a stand, and we're going to encourage New Yorkers to stop what they're doing for a minute or two, approach the microphone and ask us questions or debate us or have a discussion about what we're telling them are the real grave dangers that we face if we embrace Mamdani and his socialist agenda. And this is the first time we're going to do this, but we're going to be doing this on a regular basis all over the city between now and November. And in addition to that, I'm assembling an army of volunteers to canvass the boroughs between now and November so that we can get into neighborhoods and college dorms. You know, this guy's very popular with Gen Z, but I want to be talking to Black people and Hispanic people and Arab people and Jewish people and Gen Z, knocking on doors, having conversations about why we cannot go down this road. So, you know, as this continue, what I'm hoping will be a movement that will build in New York City. I really need people to step up and offer to volunteer their time, volunteer their energy. It doesn't have to be all the time. Maybe you can do once a week, maybe once a month. But we got to get people involved. You know, this is a city of 8 million or so people. Surely we can put together hundreds, if not more, people who can on a regular basis show up for these events and get out there and help us have these conversations, meet people where they are in New York City and open people's eyes.
Well, this is so wonderful. I don't know if I'm in New York this Sunday, but folks, if you know anybody in New York, and there's a lot of New Yorkers that listen to this program in New York. So this Sunday, July 27th, 1 p.m., Union Square. This is so wonderful. We'll be right back talking to Brandon Strock. We're talking to Brandon Strock, and he's known for his walk away campaign, and right now is back in New York City fighting for the soul of New York City. So Brandon, I'm just so proud of you stepping up here, because this is really important, and I'm excited for this Sunday, July 27th, 1 p.m. at Union Square. What you're doing really is you're waking up people, because people, they're looking for leadership, and you're stepping up as a leader because people say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
That's
I
right.
know most people know that they, or I should say, most people have a sense that they're helpless, that there's nothing they can do because he got the Democratic nomination. There's an inevitability here. There's not. His poll numbers have been dropping. And I just want to say that I've said this many times. For decades, we in the culture have not done our job of educating people about what is socialism, why is America great. So young people, college students, are unbelievably ignorant. The level of ignorance is staggering, and so you have to be stupid to vote for Mamdani. You have to be ignorant, and that's what they do. They say, well, I think they really don't know what they need to know. And if they're educated, many of them will say, well, you know what? I didn't know that. Thank you very much. Thanks for telling me that. I also got to say that Mamdani is, and this is really true and harsh and horrible, he is counting on the Jew-hating vote. He is counting. There are many people, many Muslims now living in New York. You know, it's 20 million or whatever in greater New York, but 8 million in the city. And there are many of them who hate the Jews. He needs their vote to win. So he's playing both sides of this. He will not openly condemn the concept of globalize the intifada. He's sort of playing it because he says, I don't want to alienate those voters any more than George Wallace in 1972 wanted to alienate the people who hated blacks. He was like, you know what? They're going to vote for me. I don't want to alienate them. That is the really ugly, ugly heart of his campaign, I have to say.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and sadly, a portion of that Jew hating vote exists within the Jewish community in New York City as well. And, I've seen this again. I've been a more than 20-year New Yorker, and there are a lot of, I would say, ultra progressive Jews in the city who don't think that Israel has a right to exist, or that the Jews have a right to exist. I mean, it's crazy as it sounds, but it is actually true. But you're right. I mean, there is this sweeping sentiment that's taken over in the Democratic Party in the last few years, and in the years leading up to that as well. Very anti-Israel sentiment, and certainly, I think with a lot of Gen Z people, this we could say, I guess, kind of pro-Hamas stance, or whatever you want to call it, has become romanticized, I think, for them, and it's ugly, and it is something that I think will be exploited and manipulated. But so you kind of touched upon something a second ago when you were talking about, the ignorance perhaps of different factions, and that a little bit of education can open people's eyes. This is part of the approach that I'm taking that I think is different than what I'm hearing other people say. I definitely look, I'll be the first to admit, for many years with Walk Away, I've absolutely engaged in caustic rhetoric, and, a lot of that kind of like owning the libs mentality as a former liberal myself. That's not really what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do here is basically meet people where they are, and again, not necessarily change them, but open their eyes to realize that, look, the pain points that you're describing as a New Yorker are very real. The city is unaffordable. There are many people out there working 2, 3 jobs, and they're still, living with roommates in their 30s and 40s because they can't get by or afford groceries. So these things are very real. But the problem is we've got this sort of charismatic, charming Democrat socialist who's coming in and basically saying, I want to go in and put the government in full control of your life, and we're just going to start giving you stuff, and all of this pain that you're feeling is going to go away because the government's going to give you all of the things that you need. But of course, we know that's not going to work. And so I don't want to go and make people feel like they're stupid for supporting this guy, or make them feel like they're, ignorant or anything like that. I want to say, like, look, what you're experiencing is very real. You're absolutely right to feel the way that you feel. Please know that this is a snake oil salesman. This is a Trojan horse. This is not what it seems to be, and these will be the consequences if you make these choices. So just don't make these choices. That's really what it's about. And so, that's why we want to really try to take a compassionate, I'd say, approach to trying to educate people about why this is a very bad decision and it shouldn't be made.
Well, I agree with you, and I guess when I'm talking about the ignorance or stupidity, I'm thinking of like college students who don't have a clue what it is to work 2 or 3 jobs, or to really struggle. And that's the irony, is that they think, well, I'm helping, the underclass or whatever, but they don't have any sense of it. And so they're buying this line from Mamdani that it's a lie. And if they actually knew more, they wouldn't. But look, that's happened in the past. I mean, young people believed in Lenin and Stalin and the future of communism in the Soviet Union, and it led to living hell for millions and millions of people. And so the most we can do is, spread the alarm. But so this is this Sunday, July 27th, Union Square, 1 p.m. And again, I hope I can get there. But we just got less than a minute. Brandon, just give us a little bit more to go on.
Sure. Well, I would ask anybody to please go to walkawaycampaign.com/events. That's where you can get more information about this first event on Sunday, July 27th, this Sunday at 1 o'clock in Union Square. So there's 3 things that people can do. You can attend, and we're asking people to please register if you're going to attend. You don't need to, but the reason why I'm asking people to do it is because we are going to be doing more and more and more of these events. I want to kind of create an audience or a crowd of people that are staying with us, staying engaged as we continue to do this. So we need to keep up with you. The second thing you can do is please volunteer, whether it's for one event, this event, a future event, or if you want to be an ongoing canvasser with me throughout New York City, you can fill out a volunteer application at walkawaycampaign.com. Or the third thing is please donate. If you can't attend, if you can't volunteer, please donate to the cause, because we certainly could use funding as we engage in this mission to save New York City. And you can do all of those things at walkawaycampaign.com. So please do that.
Walkawaycampaign.com. Brandon Strzok, joy to see you. Thank you, my friend.
Great to see you, Eric.